what kind of prep went into this, what we're expecting, and where we're going. So before we truly set sail into this, guys, let's do some introductions. Brad, I mean, let's kick to you first, man.
All right. Well, Zach, this is an honor to be joining with you, and it's been fun working with Sean Lardo and all the Pitch It vendors. And um, we were talking. And it was like, let's do a collab and a hype video on what we're going to experience next week, and all the fun that we've been having getting ready to go. But I'm Brad Powell. I'm one of the co-founders, and Captain of Revenue is my title here. We use Captain puns. Adam and I are not shy about it, and but at really before ThreatCaptain, this is our second sale, if you will. Well, we started Hook
Nice.
Security, a cybersecurity awareness training company back in 2018, and Adam and I really saw a problem and a need for MSPs to discuss the financial impact and likelihood of cyber breaches to their clients. And so we both took a step back at Hook Security to solve this problem, and we love the MSP community. So we said, let's go tackle this and do it again. And Adam and I love starting companies, and this is our second company that we started together. And so we're really excited to be heading down to Atlanta, and actually this is our very first booth at ThreatCaptain.
Awesome.
So we're pumped.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm 100% pumped, but the idea of being like, I'm excited to drive to Atlanta, I never thought I would hear myself authentically say that. And I truly am excited to drive down to Atlanta. Not to drive in Atlanta traffic, right? We're going to get to where we're going, deploy the booth, and enjoy the MSP community.
I didn't realize this was your guys' second company together. I knew Brad was associated with Hook, but I didn't do my background. Round two, guys, that is awesome.
Oh, yeah. I tell you what, when you're building companies, the most important thing is who are you building it with? And when you find a winner and somebody you can laugh and cry with and be like, this is hard, let's do it anyway. You're like, okay, well, we're yoked together, pulling this thing along the way. It's pretty freaking cool.
That's absolutely awesome. Adam, tell us a little bit about you, man.
Well, I think the first thing you need to know about me is I'm a Virgo. I used to like long walks on the beach, but I get gout flare-ups now, and so now I just kind of like sitting on the beach and drinking a really weak beer. Look, as you get older, things begin to you know what? Let's not dive into it. So I'm a serial cybersecurity entrepreneur. This will be my 6th cybersecurity company. I sold one back in 2018. I started a whole bunch of other companies, and my wife looked at me and she's like, and I'm paraphrasing, she's like, bro, of all the companies you've built, which ones make money? It's like, oh, the cybersecurity ones. And she's like, how about you stop like making cutlery out of China and just focus on the cyber stuff? I'm like, all right, no, that's fair. I think I want to stay married. I'll only do the cyber companies for now. But no, I'll tell you why I love cybersecurity entrepreneurship. It's one of the most important parts of starting a company is the impact you're having on the world. And guys, when we do our jobs right, we are literally helping the world be a better place at a volume that most other companies don't have an opportunity to do it. So, this is a whole lot of fun. And what makes it even more fun is the partners and the companies we get to play with. And that's why I love the Pitch It stuff. And that's why I like this ChannelCon stuff is I would never have hung out with you guys if they didn't put us all together. Not because I didn't like you, but because I never had the opportunity to connect. And so this is just freaking awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, set and sail together, guys. I'm really excited for this. And we do actually have a structured presentation today. So we have our compass, we know where we're heading, and I'm really excited to dive into it. So before we pull up the first point, I'll also introduce myself. For those of you who don't know, I'm one of many co-founders over at Senteon, and I don't have a captain of revenue title. We don't have an awesome nautical theme, but hopefully today's presentation, I represented you guys as best as I could. The AI images are sometimes not as perfect as we all hope, right?
True.
That's right.
So Senteon is a managed endpoint hardening solution. It performs the remediation on well over 1,000 different configurations across workstations, servers, and browsers with all of the fun of change tracking, remediation, reinforcement, drift tracking, monitoring, all of that. I think we've really, if you've followed my episodes before, you probably have seen me talk about configs a little too often and always weekly. So hopefully the threat captains here can make me a little bit more exciting, and we'll even dive into how our platforms might have some similarities and help each other out throughout this presentation.
Right.
So really excited to dive into it. And with that, let's start our journey. First, we do need to show this awesome intro slide. If you guys haven't seen this on LinkedIn yet, and I will, hopefully I'm not spoiling anything, Brad, but I heard if they stop by your booth at ChannelCon, they could also have one of these neat little AI images. Is that okay to disclose? Because it's too late if it's not.
No, I'm glad that you busted a bubble on it, and we will get into it on one of the later slides. I was going to talk about, when we're prepping for the booth, but yeah, we've got a lot of action from the AI images, and everyone loves them, and so we decided why not do that at our booth. So that's our free giveaway to everyone that stops by the booth. We're gonna do an AI captain image for you.
You will have a little bit of mental trauma, because if you see me over here, that is exactly the kind of physique I want. And I feel like I'm not eating enough protein. I'm not hitting the gym enough. It might just be quicker for me to get a muscle suit to try to pull off what that guy looks like. But so you will see a better version of yourself. You will be able to set goals. The AI is fantastic.
Yeah, I was honestly impressed with mine, so I can see why these are a hit. I think my wife wanted me to possibly be a captain this Halloween, but I do need to break it to her. I'm not going to look as good as an AI image. So, all right, guys, let's set sail with slide 1 here. So, we've already done some introductions. So let's really just talk about this. We're all entrepreneurs in this room. Some of us second-time entrepreneurs. I do have a franchise background, so the next level closest, but very first personal company of my own. Second for you guys, we all made the decision respectively to all go to ChannelCon. I mean, as founders, why is it so important for us to be at ChannelCon? You guys have some thoughts on this?
I do. I'll speak first. I love ChannelCon. I mean, Zach, that's where you and I met in Chicago this year at CCF, and ChannelCon is just such a great community to be a part of. And the people there, the education, what they're all about is amazing. So the fact that, as a vendor and someone helping the MSP community, that we're able to go, tell our story to the MSPs and to the community of what we're doing is really neat, and which is why I love, it's affordable, it's fun, it's there's going to be a good amount of MSPs there. There's a lot of vendors there as well that you typically wouldn't see even on the typical kind of circuit, the channel circuit of events, which is always a lot of fun because you kind of meet some vendors that you might not have met outside of that. And I think that's great for MSPs to kind of learn about some of the other vendors there. But CompTIA is great. I recommend everyone to get involved. I've met a lot of great people through it, and have forged some really amazing relationships, and really just love it. So I love giving my time to CompTIA, and just all the things that they have going on is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I want to echo that a little bit more too. I mean, CompTIA really seems to be, they're putting all their eggs in one basket with MSPs. At least that's what it feels like. I don't know if they can say that to all their enterprise partners, but it really feels like they're giving back to the MSP community and really engaging us. And for us as MSP vendors, we do get to see some of the enterprise vendors out there who we don't usually see. But like you said, they make it affordable. They allow us to join their community. And this is one of the few shows you can have a booth without spending $20,000, $30,000, and we're still all seeing each other. And and like you said, we're there, and we get to share our stories. This is my first time meeting Adam, but I know I'm going to be stopping by his booth to hear whatever stories he has about having drinks on the beach and whatever else he was doing there. But
yeah,
Adam,
most of it will be true. Some of it's going to be a lie. The game is to pick which is which, right? So I'll tell you what. The idea of what we're doing with our companies and what the industry. I love that CompTIA understands that we're all working on things too big to do by ourselves. It's not simply about driving revenue for our particular companies or selling a product to a MSP. What it's about is, hey, we're all trying to solve a bigger problem, and the ecosystems that are being built are what actually solve the problems. And so when we're lucky enough to be a part of a CompTIA community, to be a part of a ChannelCon, to be able to hang out with you, that means that we're actually doing what the purpose of these conferences are. Yes, revenue will follow, but revenue follows relationships. And the whole reason that we're going to be there is to build these relationships, to get to know the community and let the community get to know us. And I think if you go to a conference with that idea, who can I help? What is the best friend I can make? And then finally, how do I do a referral for someone else? If you go with a servant leadership mindset to these conferences, oh my gosh, there's so many wonderful people. They're going to help you too. It's wonderful. It's man, I miss going to conferences. We used to do this a lot. Wait, let me rephrase that. What I don't miss going to is Vegas for an IBM conference. Completely different experience. Don't recommend. No, stick with MSPs.
And for myself and Senteon, this will only be, I think, one of our second times, wearing this shirt outdoors, in all honesty, with everybody. So
Cool.
I really can't wait to see some of the faces I haven't met in person. I did attend MSP Geek, which I guess was that one of the first times I really went outside. But that's the thing, we as entrepreneurs, we have ideas. We're not short of ideas. I think we can wake up every day and want to try something new, but it's deciding where we want to dedicate that time and who's actually getting the value out of it. So I actually had a really good conversation with a good friend, Dylan from Shield, and we were talking about, as MSP vendors, we don't really visit MSPs on site very often, right? That's not necessarily the normal in this industry. But with enterprise, vendors go on site pretty often. They'll take to lunch, do whatever, and just fly out for the day. But in the MSP world, the shows are where that happens. We really do one to many because it's more of a community. I mean, you work with one person, they're going to have their peer group and they're going to talk to each other about you. So the relationships I found in the MSP world are just so much different than anything I've experienced in the enterprise world. So really echo that, Adam. Super good. So preparation. I mean, I did spoil a little bit of your announcement at the beginning, but I mean, looking at this show, making your booth, this is your guys' second time around with a company. Give some insight. What considerations go into? How do you decide what your giveaways are going to be? What's the preparation for a vendor?
The most important thing is to have Brad on your team and then get the hell out of his way.
Oh man, I don't know about that. No, well, set clear objectives, right? I think that's really important whenever you're thinking about, what are we going to do? What are our objectives here? Is it to get leads? Is it to network with more partners? Is it to bring brand awareness? Is it, hey, there's some really cool education that we really need to go skill up on? Research the event too, right? Like, understand, what are the other vendors that are going to be there? What are the tracks? Who's going to be talking? And really start weaving in that into your messaging. And I think LinkedIn plays a huge part in that. I mean, we love LinkedIn, and you can see who's speaking and you can start reaching out to those speakers and you can start talking. And I know I've had some great DMs and just conversations going back and forth with individuals that I've never even met. And I'm going to meet them next week. Right. And just through seeing that they're going to be there. And then obviously booth planning is huge, right? You want to bring attention to your booth. You want to have good tchotchkes. You got to have stickers. In our opinion, we love t-shirts. I think a lot of vendors like the t-shirts. The thing I love about t-shirts, honestly, is, a vendor or a partner, they're going to put it in the washing machine, hopefully, and they're going to be touching. I always like to say they're touching your logo, all the time. And when it's Casual Friday, maybe like me today, they're wearing their favorite vendor shirt, and you got to make sure it's soft. You got to make sure it doesn't shrink. And you got to have anywhere from a small all the way to a triple XL. When you're getting these shirts, you got to do that. Just keep that in mind.
You will give away more of the triple XLs than the smalls.
You got to do that. And then also, I always like to lock the team in. right? So our newest hire, Kathy, this is going to be her first MSP show. We're excited to introduce her to the community and get her out. And she's our director of product. And so I've really been prepping her on expectations and what to expect, what not to expect, what we want her to do, what we don't expect her to do. So that's it too. And Adam, I'm just like, Adam, just make sure you wear shoes. Don't wear sandals.
That's it. Like Brad says, like, uncomfortably too often, he's like, bro, you're gonna have to wear pants.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to show up.
Wear pants, dude.
Yeah. So I gotta just like chirp back at Keith, who's just spamming us about cigars. Like, I get it. I love this. First thing I do is find the best place to go smoke cigars and still hang out with my peers. Well, I got you, baby. So we are actually doing a thing, and I think we're gonna talk about it later with the Crow's Nest. But that's the other kind of prep is often there are smaller communities inside of the community that you're going to. So when you're building your strategy, you also want to know where are the subset of folks that you want to be. Like Brad does this amazing fitness running thing. And so it's not just the booth and not just the prep, but it's also what are the sub communities that you're participating in. And I'm going to be the bourbon and cigar guy. That's, I know me well enough that that's
it's a hell of a subcommittee. That sounds like a good one. I don't know about the running, Brad.
Hey, look,
everyone just crashes the running, man.
No, but he gets a bigger turnout.
We got guys. We got John Harden. We got Matt Topper, Greg Plum. I mean, we got some good guys that really love and enjoy running, and there's a whole group of us.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is there's something you love, and when you go to these conferences, don't be shy about sharing that. You're going to find somebody. There's going to be a World of Warcraft group out there that no one started, and so I think that's the other part. When you're prepping, you get to show up as something a little bit different, and the easiest way to do that is to bring what you love to the actual event. And so, I enjoy smoking cigars and looking down on above. I love rooftop bars. It makes me feel better if I can look down on the peasants walking by. And if I see Brad's herd of 100 nerds run by, I can feel good about that.
There we go.
Love that. And I want to highlight Greg's comment again as well. So he's talking about pre-gaming using the app. So that's something I've noticed, a lot of innovation in as well at these trade shows is those subcommittees, those sub-interests. I love Keith.
Come on, Keith.
You're killing it, brother.
Killing it, Captain Nelson.
These apps are available ahead of time. CompTIA does have their agenda posted for everyone, which I actually meant to drop into the comments. So I will do that as soon as I can. But you can see all of the speakers. You can plan your agenda ahead of time and really prioritize what you want to do at that show, right? And I echo what the threat captains say here, right? As founders, we want to be there because we want to make sure we continuously innovate the direction our audience wants us to, right? And we wouldn't know that if we treated all of you just like a dollar bill, right? We want that relationship because you're the way we help each other. Just like an MSP, their clients are their end client, right? Their end user, their business, right? Their SMB. We also want to work with you the same way to understand how we can make your lives better, just like you want to make their lives better. So vendors, just to different audiences, but we're all on this same ships pulling. What's the breeze is pushing us the same way.
Yeah. Hey, do you know what the ocean said to the beach? Nothing. It just waved.
And we'll have one-liners at the booth, everyone. All right, I think we've nailed this slide. Let's dive a little bit further. And talking about pulling ships the same direction, right? Right here, we're gonna really wanted to dive in what Pitch It is, give them a shout out. We gave Sean Lardo a shout out, but Pitch It, I'll kick off since I've let you guys kick off earlier. But Pitch It for us has really been a chance to meet other vendors like you guys, understand where we fit with other innovative and emerging tech. But most of all, it was really encouraging to become more comfortable doing things like this. For me, I've always done weekly webinars where I talked about a very technical topic, right? I bring on a guest, I talk about disabling SMB1, machine and activity timeout, all these super granular configurations that maybe don't get the people going as much as they should. But Pitch It really showed me that it's important to broaden and talk about more high level topics, engage the community. And I love the comments here today, right? And we want those. We want to build that community. So Pitch It's been really just eye-opening to the importance of community. But you guys, how's your experience been?
Adam, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So, you know, this is not my first accelerator, right? And one of the things I learned is that Sean Laudo is, of course, Keith's son.
That's the most important takeaway.
It's very complicated. You know, they didn't do a paternity test. It's just, you can see it in their eyes. There's something there. Well, I know that Brad's going to dive into some of the community stuff, but I'll share. So, you know, we're multi-time founders. I've gone through multiple accelerators before, and sometimes you can get to the point where you're like, well, I already know how to do all this stuff. Well, I already have all the da-da-da-da. But when you build companies, typically you do the thing once and you move on to the next task. So by the time you get back to those tasks, you're still new at it all again. And so what I'm really enjoying about the Pitch It stuff is all the speakers. They are very, very intentional about creating valuable offerings, valuable relationships, and how do you communicate effectively with your potential clients. And they're doing it in such a way where it's not about the dollar bill, it's about the value. Because, you know, we go back to something that Keith threw out there a few seconds ago, is you have to have profitable, mutually valuable relationships with your customers. Otherwise, you can't keep doing the thing that they need. And that's the thing that I love about Pitch It. It's like, hey, it's okay not to be the cheapest guy. It's okay not to, you know, just throw your product at everyone. You can act like an adult and have adult relationships with customers that are valued both ways. And when you get that stuck in your head and then you practice the things that we're learning, it really does create a better customer experience and better customer value versus I'm the lowest bidder. Please, please, please buy my product. That was good. I'm glad we're broadcasting this. Hey, you're welcome, community. Yeah. I dropped the mic on that one.
Well, you know, both of you guys just nailed it, and I'll just kind of add a little bit to it. Is, you know, for us, I think I would recommend any startup in the MSP space needs to talk to Lardo and just see the benefits that can come from Pitch It. Because when I first learned about it years ago, it was like, oh, so it's like Shark Tank and you're just going out for the money. And yeah, that's the end thing, right? But ultimately, man, it's so much more than that. You get plugged in, you know, I think all of us kind of get some of Lardo's like get things done as a startup mentality just from like what he brings to it. But then all the speakers are great and amazing. And you really always, I mean, Adam and I get on a call after every session, Zach, and it's like, okay, here's my hot take. Here's my hot take. Here's what we got to do. Here's what we're not doing. And, you know, we come away and it's been such a energy driver for our team to every week, just like, all right, you know, we're listening to Topper this week and he's going to be talking about this. And, you know, just so many good nuggets that we pull from it. And then just the ability to collaborate with all the other great vendors. Like we're all trying to do similar things and we all want to help the MSPs. And so we're all doing it in a different way. So it's just a great way to just bring everyone together and really collaborate for the community. Right. I think that's a word that we keep saying, but that's a big piece.
I think it's a big piece of any entrepreneur journey. I think that's like one of the main things. The number one advice is to try to build your community. And that's something that's hard, right? I think so many people are trying to do it that you need to find a good peer group that wants to build the same type of community. So I'll also plug something that we're working on in the background with Bob Miller, Stephen Kellogg, Matt Lee. So if you do know Senteon at all, and I know Brad and ThreatCaptain are looking at this as well, but aligning to CIS and Center for Internet Security and what that means. So we are working on a community in the background that once that is made public, I'll make sure to share with everybody. So very much rising tides, we're all pulling the same direction. So great summary for Pitch It. They definitely deserve the credit. And I am excited for a chance for that Shark Tank ending, see how that goes. But overall, getting comfortable speaking, seeing what happens, and meeting friends like this have been really great. I think the only regret is we didn't engage each other sooner. I think we took a couple months until we really started engaging the other vendors in the group.
Yeah, but that's why ChannelCon is so important. There's 26 companies in this thing, and I'm a smart man. I'm not going to memorize all that. But the fact that I know that there's 8, 9 of us showing up at ChannelCon, and now we get to do like Wonder Twin powers activate, or maybe the Voltron would be better here. I don't know. Some giant robot creature with all of us coming together is happening, right? And it reminds you that, hey, look, these remote things are great. LinkedIn Live is great, but until you get in front of somebody, until you have an opportunity to hang out with somebody physically, you really don't do that relationship stuff that you really need to do to build that level of trust, to do business with each other, to have fun with each other. And so I think that one of the things I love about the Pitch It Accelerator is that it's like, yeah, guys, you got to go show up with each other. You really, and by the way, whatever Keith just said, I want you to put that out there multiple times. Okay, there you go. That's right. Yeah. By the way, Jennifer's rock star. Everything she says is golden. You just should totally engage with her. So yes, that's the idea here is they encourage you to get away from the keyboard and go and talk to a person. And that's how you build communities. And I love the fact that they're adamant about that.
Yeah, and it's not even, and this is where Keith was saying, and I want to echo this a little bit even deeper, is, we want to build a community with our partners and our customers, but also at the vendor level, right? Especially the other startups and the early stage companies, because like Keith said, you're going to make a lot of mistakes as an early stage company. If I can learn about one of your guys' mistakes before I make the same one, I would happily take that input. So very much community is more than just the customers, the partners, it's the other vendor peers, right? There's so much opportunity out there for another company to be successful. And there's so many different layers of security, or, layers adjacent. I mean, you guys still talk about risk, even if you're not performing a security layer defense in depth solution, you are providing the risk piece of that. And honestly, why don't we dive into that? Right? One of the points here, tying the knot, right? I thought I liked this image that I was helped with creating. When you work with other partners, it needs to be a tight knot. It needs to be hand in hand, working together, understanding their value prop and where your value prop integrates into that. And then even a real technical integration if it comes to it. But being able to talk about other security platforms, other risk platforms, and showing how your platform fits into other areas is critical at the early stage. None of us here have a brand. I mean, no one in Pitch It really has their own brand. You don't see a captain's hat or see a Senteon shield and say, oh, that's that company. We're not at that stage yet, right? That's where we're all trying to get, but we're not there yet. So understanding your fit with other solutions is so critical. And I want to do this for a moment. So I got a little preview of the ThreatCaptain platform, and I know you guys are looking at multiple categories, and you guys are effectively monetizing risk. Is that a correct way to put that? Or can you?
I don't think so, but but
putting a number to it. Go ahead and explain a little bit more about these categories and what these are adding up to.
All right, Adam. This is where you get the innovation.
Oh, okay. All right. So the first off, monetizing risk. I kind of like that because at the end of the day, what cybersecurity is all about is how do we manage risk? And if you need an adult to help you do that, then there has to be a financial transaction. The problem shows up when the nerd goes to the CFO and says, please give me money so I can deploy your money to reduce risk. Because what we're very good with talking about as IT professionals or technologists is the risk from a tech point of view. What we don't understand and what we are very bad at communicating is risk from a financial point of view that a business person will trust. So when we saw that only 17% of MSPs are able to help their customers cross that gap, meaning the MSPs are really good about talking to the tech person and getting them to agree something has to happen, but they're failing when they talk to the check person and they don't write the checks. That's where we're stepping in. So what ThreatCaptain looks at when we're doing these kind of simulations is, how do we answer the question, how much is a breach going to cost? How likely is it going to be to happen? And what can I do to reduce the cost of that breach to justify the cybersecurity spend? Holy crap. If we can answer that on behalf of an MSP, then you can equip the nerd to go talk to the financial person and say, hey, the ThreatCaptain guys say it's going to be a breach is going to cost this much money. If we deploy these security controls, the breach is going to be less, and it's going to be less likely to happen. So when we're looking at these integrations with other vendors, our job often is at the very front of the decision-making supply chain, right? So I'm not going to be deploying security controls. We're coming in to talk about, man, if you could just deploy endpoint management and endpoint protection, you're going to see a huge decrease in your overall risk posture, and your security posture is going to go through the roof, because we've identified through the MITRE ATT&CK framework, through Verizon's data breach, that statistically for your industry, humans are going to click on stuff they shouldn't. And if you don't have good endpoint defense, then you're going to give them permission to harm themselves. So we're showing now the best way for you to deploy budget is to go work with Senteon, right? That's the relationship that we are looking to do, is create. We're making it easier for MSPs to deploy other people's security controls. And that's when we win. We win when somebody is doing business with you. And that's pretty cool.
I love that from my perspective. And why wouldn't a vendor want to integrate and feed their technology, especially if you, I mean, that's one of the challenges Senteon has, right? Everyone, when we were first starting out and hardening and security posture wasn't as popular of a phrase, a lot of people ask me, what risk am I actually mitigating by changing a setting?
Yes.
Why do I need to do that? I haven't done this for the last decade. I haven't done this the last 3 decades. Why should I do it now? Right?
Yes.
What's changed? And honestly, a lot of these traditional attack methods haven't changed. And these settings that you would have changed would still do the same thing. But the reality of it is the threat landscape has evolved. There's a lot more automation, and the simple configuration management, which I was so excited to see as you guys having a category for configuration management before talking to me. That was awesome. Everyone is rising tides right now. That was so awesome to see.
Yeah. Well, so the interesting part, and by the way, you guys are going to have to interrupt me because now I'm going, Zach. You've got me passionate. So the idea of each security control having a different kind of impact, and if we statistically look at it, it is the ones where the humans are involved. And by the way, humans are the heroes. They're not the problem. But every hero wears a cape or spandex, whatever. Continue the metaphor however you choose. And so you're looking at identity management, you're looking at configuration management, you're looking at security awareness training, anything that helps the humans prevent themselves from hurting themselves or goes back and checks to make sure that there are no errors. I mean, that's the biggest bang for your buck. Yeah, you still have to do all the other stuff, but we're always going to have humans in charge of reducing security risk. That's going to be a thing forever. And any tools that we have that help that human be more impactful and more effective, the literal data says that's the best place to spend your money right out of the gate. So I don't even have to have that be my opinion. That's what the reports are saying. That's what MITRE is saying. That's what over 15 years of historical data is saying. So anyway, it's pretty cool.
And I love Greg calling out the ecosystem that's getting built, right? That's exactly what we're all doing by aggregating all of the data we can and pulling together to put a uniform, standardized number together. So I love what you guys are really working to innovate. I do believe there's a massive opportunity for you guys and anyone who works with you. So Senteon will be working with you. So
right on, brother.
Want to talk a little bit more about these categories, and I don't have them memorized, but if I remember right, you mentioned like identity access, configuration management. A lot of these are all left of boom. These are all preventative categories. Why is that preventative category so meaningful when calculating the numbers you come with?
So the idea, I'm going to process that. When I look at the different categories we have, we're actually going off of roughly 81 security controls, but nobody got time for that. So we bundled those 81 security controls into 11 buckets, right? And so there's two ways to approach detailing financial risk. The first way is I'm going to be super precise. I'm going to have agents on every computer. I'm going to have, like, it is the number. And that costs hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year to do. That's not a fit for the MSP community. That's not what we're here to serve. But it turns out you can answer the question, how much a breach is going to cost me and what I should do to reduce my risk, by using more generic data. And so when you're looking at the preventative stuff, if you're looking at things like threat intel, when you're looking at defense, and I love NIST, right? So identify, detect, protect, respond, recover. Boom. I still remembered.
Got it. That was nice. Live on air, man. That was too good.
No, don't ask me what TCP/IP stands for. I'm not going to transit. Nope. I do not remember. But anyway, so the idea is when we're really aligned with NIST, when we make our reports are going to come out, and you're going to look and say, oh, yep. When we look at the policies and we look at the stuff, it's all aligning back with NIST, because I think you said it really well. When we have a shared language and we direct people towards it, that helps everyone be more effective. And so when you look at the security controls that we're measuring, that's how we make our decision, is what aligns back with NIST, CMMC, et cetera, and then how do we do this in a way that's actually accessible to people who don't want to fill out 81 cybersecurity controls?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had us transition the slide because we're right on schedule. We are absolutely talking about these points right here. But I mean, the trends you're seeing, you just kind of called out some of the trends and challenges. Is there's so many cybersecurity controls. It's overwhelming, and you can only automate so much. So it sounds like you guys really identified a problem, and we're seeing the same trend over at Senteon. This need for better automation and more automation is only becoming more critical to actually completing enough security controls to have that reduced risk of breach price point, right? So, I mean, Brad, do you want to expand a little bit on what Adam's been sharing here? Are there any trends specific that you've been seeing as well?
I mean, I'll echo the compliance side's definitely driving investment, right? And finally, great to see the CMMC coming down, and I know everyone's jumping on that. Threat detection, the automation side is huge in what we're seing. I mean, gosh, the CrowdStrike, IT outage was pretty huge. And I know that MSPs have been working tirelessly at getting their customers back. But with that, on the Hook Security side, we've talked to some of them, and phishing is really on the rise because of the CrowdStrike, and just, the bad guys take advantage of everything that they can. And so, and then even ransomware evolution, right? I think there's a lot of ransomware is just, that's something that we're always tracking in our tool. With the encryption and the distribution of ransomware, it continues to be elevated, and the bad guys just continue to use it, right? And so we're seeing that pretty heavy.
And what you're sharing, none of it's new, right? This is
it's really not new.
It's been out there.
Keep moving down down the waters with it.
Yeah, the thing that is interesting is that as the winds change, the things that are still what we should be looking at react different to the seas, right? And so the bullet points stay the same year over year, but the attacks and how they come change. And also what success looks like is changing. It's not enough to have strong defense. You have to be able to respond and recover. I think that based off of, what I've been seeing, is that the focus on resiliency over defense. People are just coming to the acceptance that we're going to get breached. one of these ransomware things are going to get through. Social engineering, you'll never be 100%. So we're going to get breached. How do we mitigate that impact on the back end? How are we more resilient? And so I'll tell you a trend that I want to see happen that isn't. I want to see MSPs help their customers build business continuity plans, incident response plans, disaster recovery plans. Because right now, when we sell a product and we're like, man, now you have your defenses. You can't throw money at cybersecurity and be safe. What you can do is put effort towards being able to recover stronger than when you got breached. And that's a lot of stuff that are typically outside of an MSP's wheelhouse. I was talking to InfraGard the other day up in Columbia, South Carolina, and I bumped into one of our SLED buddies, and that's South Carolina Law Enforcement. What does SLED stand for, Brad?
That's
whatever.
State, local, and then
it's cool. It sounds neat, SLED, right? So, but they have basically a state MSP that does business continuity, disaster recovery planning, and all that for free for anybody in the state. And so I'm like, hey, you really need to go, if you're an MSP and the trends are leading towards, your customers are going to get breached. Despite your best efforts, statistically, it's going to happen someday. Make sure they have that documentation in place. Make sure you train them how to use that documentation. And if you can't do it yourself, go find help. Again, community. That's what we build with cyber. Is the problem you're solving is too big to do it yourself. Go get friends. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yep. And I love Maria's comment. Documentation. I mean, resilient. You can have resilience. You can have all these vendors. You can have all these layers of security. But if you have no process, if you have no documentation, if you have no accountability, I think that's probably the most important there.
Ooh.
Who owns the technology? Did that trigger something in you?
Yeah,
Adam?
that's a leadership. That's a leadership question, right? We go right back to if your C-suite, if the owner of the company doesn't see that this is a likely thing they have to work on, then you're not going to get budget to do the defense. So if the leader is not bought in to the actual problem, then the technical person has no chance whatsoever to actually mitigating this thing.
Now, I want to take a step. I mean, these are all accurate statements. There are opinions, though. We both built a company. We both saw something in the market, and we did a thing. Let's take a step back. We're entrepreneurs here. Are these just our opinions, or is there a little market research we discovered before we launched? So I'll kick off here and kind of explain what I mean. So when Senteon first started out, we honestly started in a completely different category. We were trying to build an EDR platform, compete with the big dogs, right? Why would a few guys early out of college do that? Because we didn't know any better, right? We were like, we can play with those. If we get if we get the same result with a different process, everyone will switch over. There's so much more to it than just changing your EDR. Holy crap. So what was really fortunate for us is we did try to take our first pivot to market, and we could present other ideas. And our idea, of course, everyone knows at this point, is hardening endpoints, configuring assets. And the key pieces, the key challenges that really sought out in my market research, and I'm curious what you guys have seen before you launched yours, is time. Time was the biggest issue. Everyone knew they should configure their assets. They should have privilege management, role-based access controls, right? They knew they should be doing all of these things. But once an MSP has more than 3 enterprises they're taking care of, or even just their internal at some point, managing hundreds and thousands of different machines and different assets. I mean, the computer we're on right now has configurations. The application we're hosting this from has configurations. The browser we're hosting the application from has configurations. So it just scales infinitely to the point where everyone was getting overwhelmed. So that was the biggest takeaway in our market research phase, was there's not enough time to perform the cybersecurity fundamentals. And that's really was our biggest thing. And to take that one step further, sharing the background on the challenges that really started Senteon, was changing settings is one thing. It's hard to do. There's a lot. but there's a fear that changing a setting will break something. So, I mean, Adam, it sounds like you've probably changed a setting and maybe made some people mad in the past.
Oh yeah, you did. He's got a great story, actually.
So we might need that story here in a moment. But that was the thing. If we're changing over 1,000 settings, if you just hit that on switch, something will break and you won't know what broke what. So our biggest aha moment for Senteon was if we can predict what impact a change of setting will have before you change it, how important is that? Will this setting break something or not? And that was the premise that really gave us the confidence to launch Senteon, to build the thing that everyone kept telling us to build. And now we get to sail the seas with some of our friends right here on the webinar. Adam, I want your story before you give your origin story.
Look, I mean, so I do have stories, but there's so many. We used to call patching something a break fix, you know, or you know, it wasn't a fix pack, it was a break fix. And, you know, I would spend so much time. I had back in my day, I did access management where I had over 380 applications going through my access proxy. It was Tivoli back in the day, for those of you keeping score at home. And I had to test every single one of the configuration settings for all 380 of those applications before I was able to change anything on my, and it is a multi-week process. And I always was wrong about something. We would go live and I would have 10 apps that would break and I would have to go back to it. The thing that just makes my heart sing is the predictive analysis of how a change is going to impact my environment. If I could have had an automated way to do the manual process, and don't get me wrong, I was really good at it, but volume of changes and time, I'm only human. I'm going to be sick one day and my faculties won't be there. It's going to be, I remember I had a 72-hour workday as we were building a environment back from when it was destroyed. And of course you're making changes. And so it's like, going back to your automation statement, when you can automate the right parts of the human behavior to allow the human to do what they're really, really good at, which is strategic vision, to see patterns and things like that, but not a repetitive, I must do all these things over and over again. I remember we did we actually did a deal with Indonesia to build a fusion center. And the number 2 thing that they had to have was configuration management. I was like, your entire everything is wide open because you're so understaffed that your nerds have to move on to the next project and you never let them go check their work. That's like your second largest security risk was you don't give your nerds time to do a good job. And we're all under that pressure. So when you said time is the number 1 thing, I was like, that's absolutely right. There's another fire right down the hall. I got to go get to that one. I do not have time to do. And so being able to have a predictive tool that's this is sexy. I mean, whoo, sexy. All right.
I mean, skipping the unsexiness of configuring things, it's easy to put it on the back burner and start the next project instead of finishing the one about configs.
Yeah, but I mean, so it's unsexy to those who aren't in the trenches. And if you've ever had to build a thing from zero, or you've ever had to put a network together, it is actually the Visio diagram is a thing of beauty once you have it all built out.
Yes.
And the problem that non-practitioners may not understand is that the configurations are the brush strokes of the art that we make. And if I can have help planning my art, I got a buddy, he's a great painter. He has interns that do all the pencil sketches for him before he paints it. So his skill set is the painting. He has his interns actually do the sketches before he makes it happen. And that's kind of what I see you guys doing is you have a predictive, being able to go in and predict where the brush strokes need to be and how I need to do it. I'm still responsible for the brush strokes, but you get to show me how the painting is going to look before I decide to go all in on it. And that is just freaking cool.
Brad, he always give good metaphors like that. That was spot on.
You see why I'm starting the second company with him?
Well, we got about 10 minutes left to pitch it. I'm not pitch it. What our events are coming up, but I want to hear first your guys' market research. You guys didn't just have this opinion that MSPs need this. There must have been a driving force, people you talked to. What were some of the key takeaways that started ThreatCaptain?
Yeah, when we built Hook Security, We were selling licenses for our security awareness training, phishing testing, and MSPs were like, yeah, this is great. We're ready to go. And then we get a call the following week and they'd say, hey, Brad, we really like how you talked about the psychological side of security training and how the human brain works. And can you jump on and do that with some of our clients? And we're like, absolutely. Yeah, sure. And so what we realized is that, man, we had to really help the MSPs sell even this little piece of technology and service to their clients. So we saw something there. So we started getting some hypothesis throughout the 6 years of building there. But then we'd realize too that we'd get the IT director on the call and they'd say, this is great, Mr. and Miss MSP, Hook, we love that you guys are partners and let's go get it approved. And then they come back and say, we love it, but we can't get our C-suite on board. And so to make the move. And so that's where ThreatCaptain really, Ab and I talking in the background, we're like, there's something here. And then we started doing research and looking at the continuum research coming out. And I think Adam threw the stat out, 17% of MSPs are actually confident in selling cybersecurity services. And so I'm no mathematician. That's 83% of MSPs are not that confident in selling cyber. And so we said, wow, we really feel like we can add value and we can build something. And, Ab and I are the type that we just go start breaking stuff when we get go. We just jump right off the ledge and start selling, building, and doing. And ThreatCaptain actually started out in the first 3 months. We were a professional services company that had technology, and the technology is what ThreatCaptain's platform is today. And so we were doing tabletops. We called them roundtables because they are more executive leadership roundtables where we get the IT and the security teams and the C-suite of the MSPs and even some enterprise customers together and provide these really cool, unique roundtables. Not much incident response involved. Like we touched all the little things, but it was very much a roundtable discussion. And everyone kept coming back to us, Zach, and saying, we love when Adam gets up and talks about his 30 years of experience in cyber. And we like you, Brad, but what's this technology that you guys keep showing us, like on the financial risk? And I kept coming back to Adam, like, Adam, man, I'm going to break your heart, but we're going to be a SaaS company. And we're not going to do professional services with MSPs. We're going to do this software gig again. And so that's really, in a nutshell, Zach, what got us to ThreatCaptain today.
Yeah,
and people asked. It makes sense.
Well, I'll follow up because there's two things. I really want to brag about Brad for a hot second. So usually what happens is you go out there and you get all of the industry data. How big's my market? Who would need this? What are they saying? All that. And you build a really good hypothesis. What most of us do poorly is when we start a company, we bet everything on the hypothesis. What Brad does is he picks up the phone and he calls potential customers and tests the hypothesis. The first 3 to 4 months of any business that Brad and I build together is him proving that we're not full of shit.
That's the best person to have. I would much rather know if it works before I build the thing.
Oh my goodness. He says, and I'm going to mess up his quote here, but he's like, everybody in a startup is concerned about the hockey stick on the upper right. He's the only thing I care about is that first $1 million on the bottom left. If we can't do that first $1 million on the bottom left, if we don't have product market fit, if we don't have problem solution fit, if we can't build a product that a customer wants to use, then none of the other stuff will ever happen. So Brad is focused on, and it goes back to the data, actually going out and talking to a customer to see if the price you want to sell the thing at for the solution that it is and the problem that you're solving, that is what Brad does magically. And so when you're talking about validation and you're talking about how do you know this is a good idea, everything on the whiteboard and in your spreadsheet is a guess. You don't know it until somebody like Brad picks up the phone and talks to a customer.
I love it. We'll have to do a whole episode on that, Brad. I think that's really key to anyone considering becoming an entrepreneur for the first time or even just entering the MSP space. I mean, it's very unique. So another episode to come on that one.
Let's do it.
All right, let's hit up this next slide here. It'll be the last one with some content. I want to make sure we get a chance to talk about the Crow's Nest, what we're doing with Pitch It, the happy hours. I think there's maybe some in the morning and evening. I'm not completely sure what we decided on, but I do know we have an amazing banner coming out. So super excited to see that in person. But one thing I want to give a shout out to Senteon as well in the center here. We will be holding a hardening workshop. So this will be on Wednesday. If you don't know what hardening is, if you are considering starting out, or if you're already an expert, then you can really show your skills, because we are going to be putting a little CTF together so you can compete against your friends to change some settings. Does that not sound like the most hype thing to do at ChannelCon? Change configurations?
Oh yeah, dude.
So very excited for that. A lot of education about it. We'll preview some of the work that the CIS working group has done to show what just goes into meeting some of these CIS controls, specifically number 4. But enough shouting out myself and my first in-person workshop. Crow's Nest, guys. We're doing some Pitch It happy hours. Adam, you mentioned we have like 8 or 9 of our cohort all joining in here. And
That's right.
what can we expect of this happy hour? I mean, I believe you guys are really the pioneers for this, or the captains for this happy hour.
Yeah, Brad, why don't you gush on this thing?
Yeah, so like we were saying at the very beginning, it's very affordable to do ChannelCon as a vendor and become a member. And so Adam and I decided that we were going to reserve the ambassador suite, which is now called the Crow's Nest. And we got to talking to Lardo about it and said, we should get some of the Pitch It vendors that are going to be there to step in. And that's going to be Defense X, Giant Rocket Ship, Seed Pod, Cyber, Infima, Senteon, ThreatMate, and X Amplify. So it's going to be a good group of all of us. I think that's 8 plus us. And so we have Monday starting around 7:15, or excuse me, Tuesday through Thursday, 7:15 a.m. We're going to have mimosas, Bloody Marys, donuts, probably some coffee, water bottles that everyone can come up to the suite and hang out and get ready for the morning. And then in the evenings, we'll be having, a great time in the Crow's Nest in the evenings as well, kind of starting probably around 8 until. And so we do have a registration link. We are telling everyone to go register on that. It's threatcaptain.com/Crow's Nest. That's where you can register. And that gets you full access for the full week. And it's going to be a great time. I think we'll also have cigars, because I think there's 3 balconies in the room that we got. I don't have the room number quite yet. There you go, Zach. But we'll add that to the registration link once. I'm gonna have to call them today to get that. But
I mean, what's better than getting to see all the new early stage companies get together? I mean, this is not going to be just a repeat vendor that you see with all the $20,000-$30,000 booths. I mean, we can't afford those, right? So this is our chance to make a splash, right? This is an MSP's chance to get ahead of the curve and differentiate their companies by evaluating some of us, giving the small guys, or the new guys rather, a chance, right? And that's how you rise tides, right? Move the industry forward. You got to take the time to evaluate the vendors that are worth evaluating. And hopefully this is one of the ways that really sets our cohort apart, and something we might be able to do reoccurring at some more of these shows as the revenue and our growth does start to hit. So really, really excited to dive into that. And who really needs those fresh eggs and potatoes when you can have mimosas and donuts, right? We have the better area.
I know. There you go, Zach. I love that.
Look. There's going to be a solid percentage of our community that's going to need a little hair of the dog the next morning, and you know what? We're brave enough to help.
That's right.
Absolutely brave enough. All right, we are hitting this hour mark, but I do want to give a few minutes to talk about the booth. I previewed your guys' giveaway, but what went into your decisions? What are you guys giving away? What can we expect at the Threat Captain booth?
Yeah, we're booth 210, and we're going to be giving away shirts. We got stickers. We got some lapel pins that only special people will be able to receive. We have some hats, some captain hats that we're giving out, and obviously the AI generated captain portraits. So that's kind of some of the things that we'll have at our booth to give away.
Yeah, man, you would be really cool is that we give away these AI images, and then the next conference you can show your support as a crew member by changing your LinkedIn profile picture during the conference to the actual AI. Like if you look at my LinkedIn, I got my AI captain's picture there. I got to update it because Brad's latest is fantastic. But when you think about why we give stuff away, it's because we're inviting people into a community. When we see people wearing our shirts at a conference, that is really, really cool, right? And when you leave the conference or you don't see people, like Zach, you made a great point that, if we're not together and we're not seeing each other and we don't go visit the customer, how do you get to have that community built? And for us, it's if you give somebody something digital that actually matters and has a cool story and all the things, then you can still build that community online. And so I don't know, maybe there's that talk like a pirate day, whatever. We haven't figured out what we're going to do with it, but we just know it's a freaking great idea.
Yeah.
Find a way to toss the Senteon logo onto my captain's pick, and it'll be my profile picture. Got to have my logo somewhere in the photo.
I agree.
You're right.
100%.
Tell us about what you're doing, Zach.
Yeah, so we will also have a booth. So we did design a banner. So we are super excited about that. First time entrepreneurs. We have a banner, everybody. Assuming it gets delivered on time. We were a little tight on the ordering, but we will also be doing some stickers. We did lean into some comedy with the scope of security we do, aka hardening. So I will let you get creative on what kind of stickers we might have. So very excited to be handing out those. We will have also some hats, bottle openers, the good credit card ones, so they fit right into your wallet and make TSA question you as you go through the metal check. So, but really excited for that and to get into that. So with that, let's get to this concluding slide here. We do have our upcoming events. This webinar here, you can watch the replay on our YouTube channel over at Senteon CIS. And to check us out at the Crow's Nest, that link is in the LinkedIn comments, but that is going to be a all ChannelCon event. So morning and evening. That's correct, guys, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Morning and evening, nonstop. So we will do our best to keep that room occupied, or we will have that room occupied. And I will also be doing my hardening workshop over at ChannelCon on the 31st for 1:15. And I'm also going to be trying to do a webinar while at ChannelCon for my configurations. We'll see how that goes out, but really excited to be doing that. And as a gift for anyone who watches the webinar, Senteon always does its giveaway of free reports if you toss in settings webinar when you sign up. So really excited, guys, to see you in person, making friends, making relationships, and building communities. Really excited for next week.